Last time on The Empire's Edge. Who's Roth House?
Every single person was like watching me from the second that I walked down the street.
But I was being followed the whole time that I was walking through the city.
The library is very strictly controlled. I think the Zrek presence might not just be expansive, but deep.
There's a lot of weird stuff going on. Oh, we could get like a network of kids to be looking out. If we get any sort of a look on the guy that was chasing you around, if we just have all the like city
As
kids
long as
just
you're not
looking
putting
around.
him in danger. I already killed a bird. It's a little different killing a kid.
Slightly.
Functionally.
Most notably, the first people you can't help but note, or beings, are two of what you believe are Umber Hulks.
Hail and well met, Inda. Good to see you again.
There have been many people that have gone to see Lark and Silk and have never come back from the cul-de-sac on Johann Street. As far as his skills as a Boyer and a Fletcher, they're unparalleled. Only Sigurd himself was reputed better, but he's a very dangerous man. He shifts his headdress back and has exposed another whole set of eyes. You have a guest that's awaiting you in the parlor. We need to speak about things that are happening in this city through their power that I've been able to hold back the wizards at the Razia Tower.
We stand with you, Baron.
Thank you, because I need your help to save Karnkeldly. So the three of you are in this parlor in the Roth house. Baron Miles Fleetwood just left a few minutes ago. And what do you decide to do immediately tonight?
Well, so I guess we're in, Boris. You signed us up.
Yeah?
I think we all signed us up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Has dinner already been like prepared, or
No, like,
will
we
be soon?
just walked in.
Right, you just came in the door. So
yeah, but it's
Is it
late
served?
o'clock.
that they would put a meal on for you whenever you wanted. If you wanted to eat right now, if you wanted food, it would be in minutes. You would have something.
Yeah. Do you want? Shall we discuss this before or after dinner? I could eat.
I could eat.
Yeah, let's.
All right, so the word is sent. Food is brought in short order, and you guys are in the dining area, or would you rather eat in the parlor because it's a little more private?
Let's do that, I think.
Let's eat wherever it's most private.
Okay.
Okay, so you're still
I
in
wasn't
the parlor.
thinking discussing over dinner. I was thinking having dinner and then discussing. But
Nah, let's
Let's
make
multitask.
have a working meal.
Yeah.
A working lunch. So they have food. You're eating food. Food is good.
Okay.
as it should be.
What is our first course of action?
Well, in my research, I think I was telling you guys that I found a number of the first houses, and one of them I think is our good place to start. The now extinct House Zelatis. I know where it's where the seat of that family had been in the city. It might be worthwhile to check out the building, see if it's still used for anything. If it's abandoned, maybe snoop around a bit.
You found
Why
out
do you
exactly
think
where it was?
that's a good place to start?
Because it's one of the oldest houses. That
Okay. All right, that makes sense.
if there's any place that has, access to what came before the city was well and truly a city, I would assume the old seats.
Yep. I like it. Have you seen it? Have you scoped it out at all?
Not yet. I came back here from the library.
And were there maps to let you know like where in the city it is?
Addresses, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you'd know a general area, but you wouldn't know the exact GPS of the thing.
I wonder if we could send
Good
one
thing,
of the
because
kids.
GPS is
Yes.
I wonder if we could
you
send
mean
one of
find
the kids to
location?
go and look at it and see, just to see if there's who they see hanging around it. Is there?
Honestly,
do they
it'd
see
probably
anybody
be
hang around it?
worthwhile to do that and then get eyes on the Razia Tower and a few other locations.
Yeah, I'd also like to talk to one of the kids to find out if they have a sister, or a mother, or whoever that I could buy some clothes from. I can't wait to get more normal clothes,
Well, they'd be very-
less distinct
They'd
clothing.
be very fancy clothes too, so that will take some time.
Right? Yeah,
Mm.
I just need to be able to blend in.
Oh, if we just want
Our-
normal clothes?
Our own clothing should be sufficient as long as you're not wearing armor. Then that we could go down to like an actual tailor and just have
yeah. If we want fancy
clothing
clothes.
for sale tailored.
I bet
well,
there's open markets
we've already
nearby.
got fancy clothes coming because that.
Yeah, and if you just wanted another pair of normal clothes, I mean, just without your armor on, just go down. We could go to any open air market and probably find a tunic.
Here's my suspicion. When we went and registered, when you went and registered, we were all together. I didn't notice anybody following us then. Did either of you guys note
No.
that?
Can't say I was looking.
So, I mean, I think whoever is following me specifically. So I'd like to try to make myself less obvious.
Agreed. It may have something to do that you all were and still are armored.
Yeah.
Like that's highly atypical.
I am more comfortable with my
But yeah, if you
beaks.
want to, do you want to send for, one of those boys are going to be just outside the door right now, just outside the building. You could walk outside right now and ask him if there is someplace he could
Go
get
ask the
clothing from.
GPS.
No, if we feel confident that I could just not wear my armor, just wear my clothes, and I'd be able to blend into this city based on the people that we've seen, then I'm okay with that. Because I also don't want to. I'm nervous about connecting myself to anybody at this point. So I don't want to take somebody's clothing and they go, "Oh, Sue is connected with this girl. Let's go get Sue."
And they're suddenly like bluebirded like that one back at that battle.
That was a
right?
Finch, but okay.
Wow.
So
Borrow Tim's sister's clothing. She gets hit by a fireball.
if I can just wear my own stuff,
Oh, I thought you
and
got
we
turned
feel
into a bird.
confident that in my own stuff I'll be blended, then I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I still see the value that if you want to get some other clothing, just to switch that up a little bit, because you've been
Okay.
wearing the same clothing, probably the same outfit. Maybe they had a change of a shirt and you had a change of a shirt and a skirt. I don't know. We never really talked about it, but that you've been wearing the same article of clothing for like 2 months.
And that's the one thing that I've been thinking. Adventuring, I'm
atypical for
probably
the
wearing
pores.
pants, but in the city, probably all women wear skirts.
Most likely.
So, okay, I am going to step outside and see if Tim is out and about.
Yeah, it's one or the other. So it's Bob.
Bob, if I may call you Bob.
Wow.
Glad I'm not the only one.
Where do you want this to go?
He's a minor, so
Nowhere.
back the bleep up,
So
please.
he's got a good job.
So, Bob, can you think of any ladies that you know who are about my size who'd be willing to sell me a set of clothing?
Yes, milady.
I'm going to give you a couple of silver.
Thank you, milady.
If you could please make that exchange for me.
I'll have something for you within the hour.
Thank you.
And he runs off.
I love that he's just like ready to answer the question, so it almost sounded like here, I'm gonna give you 2 silver. Thanks. And I want you to do something. Oh yeah.
Nothing else. An hour later, he does come back with a couple of changes of clothes that would look like just your average citizen, the
Perfect.
middle to low class.
Exactly what I need.
Yeah,
So,
a couple of skirts, a couple of blouses.
yep, that's perfect. That's perfect. So one of the things that I'm going to look for in the skirts is if there's a way that I can sew an extra pocket. If I can put a pocket in that maybe isn't as obvious that I could hide things in if I wanted to.
I would think even somebody with like very minor ability to stitch clothes could do that very easily, very quickly. Yeah. So the answer is yes and yes.
With how
Great.
agile you are with darts, you might just be able to use the tip of one of those and stitch something into your clothing.
High speed, she has the dart like held vertically and goes,
She's just a sewing machine.
done.
I went a different direction, that she has it like draped over a chair and is like throwing the needles.
So my skirt's all ready, but I have to bring this chair with me. All right. So
Good.
So everybody,
I'm prepared for the next day.
You're going. Everybody goes to bed, wake up, breakfast.
Yeah.
And just so we're clear, every morning and every evening, I'm checking the space where we have the wizard blocks hid, just to make sure that nobody's messed with it. The lock is still on. It looks just the same as it did the last time I looked at it.
Yeah. Do you do anything really sneaky, like pull out one hair from your head, lick it and apply it to like across the edge of this thing, so to see if anything's open and knock that hair out of place, or you're just looking at it so
I
it
will
looks the
do
same?
something just that sneaky and pick a hair.
All right. So it has not been opened up.
Yes, so we're good. We're going to go to breakfast.
Yeah. So you guys come down. You're just in your traveling clothes, sans armor,
Yeah.
And
If-
I'm in my new clothes,
yeah. So she looks like just
new
your
used clothes.
new used clothes.
her typical kind of a peasanty looking, low middle class workaday person.
What was the word I used last week? Not peasant. It was way worse than that, and everyone looked at me weird.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
I don't either.
It wasn't plebeian. Pauper.
Pauper. It was pauper.
Poor person.
Exactly.
All right. So
You called them a poor.
So
you have your meal and you head out.
I
Yeah.
thought so.
Yes, I think I'd also be sans sword, because you don't want to advertise that way, as much as I
Okay.
loathe leaving it
The
behind.
one time I was going to remember to grab my horse, and we're not even taking him.
Yeah, right.
Right.
I do want to get a hold of Tim or Bob, as the case may be, and direct him to spread word around that I want at least one
So
set
is
of...
that on the front steps when you guys are exiting the...
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it is Tim this morning.
Unless Bob's working a double.
I want at least one set of eyes, one of your friends who you think you can trust, to keep an eye on Razia Tower. Be safe with it. Don't try and interfere with anybody or stop or beg from anybody. Just kind of keep an eye on the place. Be casual. I want to know how many people come and go, if anybody seems out of place.
Okay, so even without doing some kind of a like an insight on him, using an insight, his eyes go wide for a moment, but then he calms down almost immediately. And when you're done talking, he just says, "Of course."
Yeah. Yeah, I was reaching for my coin pouch as he coughed, so stow it, squire. I hand him 2 silvers to spread the word, and then tell him it's a gold for each day for whoever's keeping an eye on the place. At the end of the day, you'll be my man with that.
He nods and he runs off. That was I was gonna have him, like, if you just gave him a silver, like, on your way, he was gonna stick around for a bit. Go ahead and do that. Do that insight now. Cool. Now that he's gone for the whole exchange.
12.
You recognize that he was actually, for the first time, you've seen him afraid.
Yeah, it's why big pay.
Yeah. And so that did help him because he is, an entrepreneur and a capitalist, I guess.
And big trust too, that I'm doing what I can to set him up as guy in charge. That he's the go-to guy. That I'm funding him, but he's becoming the guy. Right. And I'll be in turn going to the Baron saying, "Hey, I need however much a month to fund my operations and observations."
Gotcha. And then he would have asked you before he ran off, report to you here tonight?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Then he runs off. All right. So, and you guys head out at a walk in that direction?
Yeah. First things first, before we actually go wandering well and true around to try and find the spot, I'm going to go to the urn and skillet where my soldiers are. Okay.
So do you guys go with him? Or is
no, we're not going to split up anymore.
Yeah, I think at this point,
I think keeping together is wise.
And then real quick, just to know how you are armed or what's going on. So how are you armed, Boris?
Dagger and spellcasting abilities.
Okay, yeah. So your armor class is just 10 and dex adjustment right now?
For now, yeah. I've got one of the spells I have prepared is Armor of Faith, which will give me, or rather Shield of Faith, which will give me a +2 if needed.
Okay, perfect. And for Jacob?
I guess following that, I would leave the bow behind and just take the
Where's that safe
sword
in my room?
Yeah.
Wasn't that my room, but the safe was teeny-weeny?
Just snap it as many pieces as it takes and shove it in there.
It fits perfectly.
It just completely spills over and you're like, why did I do that? Now I don't have a bow.
Yeah.
But you do have what would have been like Violet's dagger.
Yeah, I'm bringing that with me and spellcasting ability.
Okay. And then Zelen?
I've got darts.
Oh, she's the most armed.
Yeah. So I'm going to have my darts, my dagger. I have my staff that I can turn into a shillelagh anytime I want to. And I'm also going to cast mage armor on myself.
Right, out of the one of the stone spell books,
yep,
right? Yeah,
out of one of the stone.
Yeah. All right, so you're probably the most heavily defended person right now.
Which
yeah,
makes
I'm
sense.
also the one they're following, so come on.
All right.
Oh, yeah, speaking of that, I guess as we walk, I'll be making regular checks, just kind of perceiving around us, make sure we're not being followed or tailed.
Yeah, I'll make checks when passive stuff isn't sufficient.
Okay, and you guys head that, you know where it is. You have enough notes to know where that is. So you get there in just a handful of minutes. It's not that far away. You were moving north, which is down the Brimroar, down the city, and you've gone to one of the open air markets and then a side street, and you're there.
Okay. I'm assuming my guys are there?
Yes, they are.
How do they respond to me arriving?
That they go from loitering about to being like at attention and look a little sheepish, that they look a little as prepared for the day. They've had a couple of days now that they've just been really just enjoying themselves and kind of slacking.
At ease.
And unlike the British military, when you say at ease to a person like this, they completely relax and just sit back down again.
It's what I wanted them to do, so good. Now that you've been getting a bit of rest, I've got a job for you lot. I want each of you in pairs, moving around through the city, keeping an eye on any troops here, but looking especially for minarets and towers, especially in the old quarter, but throughout the city.
And they each have their own like kind of subtle things that they'd want to make sure they know of that you're looking for, like the minaret itself, like for ruins of minarets, something that could have been a minaret and rebuilt,
All
or
three.
yeah, that when you go through all of that information, they get it. And should we report to you at the house where you're staying, sir, or are you going to come back down here?
I'll meet you back here this evening
All right, we'll have a report for you ready, sir.
and cover each other
Of course.
and dismissed.
Okay, and then they go back to finishing their breakfast, and you
You
guys.
didn't want to
leave
like send Tim or Bob to be their point of contact to run back to us?
Not yet.
Okay.
All right, so then backtracking back through the city, you're heading in a direction where it's very familiar to all of you. It's taking you back in the direction of both the Zeta Library rather, and the palace itself.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're making what's
Veda Library,
yeah,
not
with a V.
Zeta.
what I say?
Zeta.
Oh, okay.
Like,
no.
is that an actress?
Yeah.
I don't recall.
Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
how about that? Yeah.
653s.
No, the Veda Library. Thank you. And then you're heading in a direction that's a little more easterly in the city. You're in very wealthy districts. There's no more open air markets. Zelen, you were just here yesterday, so all this is very, very familiar to you. And then you
Any
arrive.
panthers wandering around on the roofs?
Yeah, apparently not.
Valid
Or
question.
rather, jaguars.
Uh,
Like there's a difference.
Everyone, go ahead and make that perception roll to see if you've noticed anyone following any of you.
Can I make it as a siegecraft?
No.
But I'm
being
looking for
attacked.
hostiles taking advantage of the roofs.
The alleyways.
19 plus 8 for 27.
Ow.
I also rolled a 19, but my perception's not nearly that fantastic for 23.
Which is still
14
awesome.
plus 3 for a 17.
So when you
I
start,
rolled well, and I'm the crap out.
and you are all aware that there is somebody that is like directly across from, like, because you're backtracking, you get right past the Roth house, and as you are approaching it, so you're heading from the north to the south, right across the street, there is an individual who looks like he's lost. That in the people moving on the street, he's looking back and forth, he's turning, and you can't help but notice him. It's looking as though he's lost something and he doesn't know where to find it or where to pick up the trail to look for whatever it is.
Insight to gauge that.
Okay, go ahead.
Natural 20 for a 23.
Oh, very nice. That as he's looking about, you recognize him. You don't recognize his face, but he looks like the kind of steely-eyed fighter type that you would have seen both at the Veda Library or at the palace. That it looks like he was probably sent down here to watch you guys go, but you left before he got there. So you think this guy was sent to be a tail, but he's really bad at it.
Hard turn.
Okay, so yeah, let's turn. But that's not the person who followed me. The person who followed me was good at it.
Yeah, so then we're pursued by at least 2 factions.
Yep.
Makes me wonder, though, if the person who was following you recognized that you noticed him. They sent this guy down to try and put us at ease. Like, we now see this person who's a much worse tail. They're like, oh, they must be getting sloppy. That must be the guy following us today. And they want us to let our guard down, but there's actually another one following us.
How's the
who's
person
better one.
dressed?
He's dressed very much like a commoner, like he
Okay.
has.
Nothing distinguishing.
Yeah, he's just like he could be selling bread or
Armed?
fixing a shoe. Most likely, but not obviously. There's no like as he turned, you didn't see that sweep in somebody's cape that says long sword, and he has no pole arm in his hand.
Now that we're standing in this area across from him, I want to do a search of the surrounding area to see if there is any signs of someone else who's watching us watching him.
All right, so using those same rolls, so you made that turn. You're at a different street that's intersecting. It doesn't look as though he's seen you, and those rolls were all so high. I guess particularly from Jacob and from Zelen, that as you're making that roll from an adjacent roof up high, you see that there is like the silhouette of somebody's head, and it just ducks back out of the way.
Let's move.
Yeah.
So you're taking a more circuitous route as you're heading up toward, or I should say down toward, south toward Garnsdale Park. You're climbing in the city. You're getting higher in elevation. and
Which would be
then-
literally up then.
Yeah, literally up.
Moving on up.
And then when you get to the area of Garnsdale Park, you're very aware of what a beautiful area. These houses are magnificent. Some of them, you have a front door to the house. You just go into the front door. Some have a small estate with a wall around it. Some look a little more maintained and some better protected. but it looks like there are a lot of wealthy people that live in this section. And to see it in the brighter day, and when you're maybe a little less concerned, Zelen, that you're being followed, it seems still, but you've got the rest of everybody else with you too, so it seems like a little less intimidating, that you are aware that there is tremendous wealth in the building of these cities. And go ahead and make be a nature sense if you have that. Or I will take the siegecraft on this one for the architectural knowledge too.
Ah, yes, very naturey.
I was-
13.
I was actually about to say, if I see Ladosk House, can I do a siegecraft on it to assess it?
Okay, you
For
probably
when
come
we
to
attack
soon.
it.
Yeah, right.
16 for 24.
And mine was 16 for a 19.
And yours was?
Lower
13.
for lower.
Lower for lower.
Yeah, so both Zelen, you don't have to say it out loud, but both Zelen and Boris note that the stone that is built, that is in a lot of these houses, wouldn't even be natural stone to this region. That'd be cases where they're importing stone from like the Corman Empire.
That's fancy.
From places all over in the Confederation of Duchies. So there's a lot of wealth that comes into the city from other places to build this up, and it's not just local stone. All right, so you head to Garnsdale Park, and
I'd give comment so that we're all on the same page.
okay,
There's some nice rocks. Moving on.
then do you want to take them through the path that you went through, or do you guys want to stay on the street and go around this large rectangular park area?
Well, Boris knows where the fastest way is to.
It'd be the southeast corner of Garnsdale
Yeah.
Park, so kind of the other side of the park.
I'd prefer whichever has the larger population.
Okay, so stay on the street.
Yeah, if there's more people on the street, otherwise.
Now, you would probably having small conversations among the three of you, especially since you did note that there was somebody that was watching you, that if you stay to the west side of Garnsdale Park and then turn east once you get down to the end of the park, you're going to go right in front of the house that she said is the house. That's the Ladosk Manor. If you go the other way, you'll be able to see it down the street, but you wouldn't have to pass it. So.
Let's be bold, and I do want to make that assessment.
Okay, so
We've killed all the Zrek operatives we've encountered, so I don't think our description's quite circulated back just yet.
So within a couple of minutes, you are passing right in front of Ladosk Manor. And again,
do you want that siegecraft?
Yeah, do that siegecraft now. And there are Zrek just all over the place, moving in and out. And like Zelen had learned the day before, it isn't as though there's carts as that had been in Weldon, where they are literally at their headquarters, organizing material and sending out information. This just seems to be an informational hub. But there are already people that move back and forth around that have like leather scroll cases, some very large packages, boxes, but they go in and out of this place all the time.
We also afforded a perception check just to see if there's anything amiss in the operations as they're going on.
Okay, sure. While you're rolling that, let's do Boris's
8 for 16.
At that 16, you recognize that it looks like a manor, a very well done manor house. But as you're looking at it, you can see that, all right, so that window is actually been made into a false window. That is actually now a firing position that looks like a window if you weren't paying attention. And the more you look at it, it almost changes before your eyes. And you see a place that is so well defended that you wouldn't want to make a frontal assault with anything under like a regiment.
Okay.
Where's
Where's the last dragon I heard tell about?
The gate.
yeah, back at the gate
I'm
when you
thinking
guys killed it.
bigger and redder.
Yeah. So what did you roll, Jacob?
A big old 9.
And that was like anything amiss in their
Just
operation?
watching the way that they're acting.
So we'll take that you notice nothing that's amiss about it. It's very different than what you're used to at the other locale, but it does seem as though that it surprised you there's so many people going in and out. Whether that's different than what's normal operation for them, you don't know. But there's a lot of people.
It's hardly surprising for the ruling
So
building.
I want to check to see if the people who are following us follow us right in front of this house, or is this city kind of cordoned off? Like the people who are following us, are they not going to go in front of the Zrek house because it's like a
It's
gang?
not their territory.
Exactly. Is it like a gang
They
thing?
jump onto the roof and get immediately shot
you have
to
a
death.
very high
Right.
DC, but you would have made it with your last roll. But go ahead and give that a try.
19.
You don't note that individual that was following you before. You don't see like a head ducking back down and around. But if there are factions here, a lot of them seem to be focused right in this area. But both the Razia Tower and the Veda Library, the Palace, and Lidosk Manor are all in very close proximity. So if there's a dangerous spot, it's right here. So
Where's Daenerys when you need her?
Yeah.
so
Oh, wait, I'm a good guy. Never mind.
so you don't note that there's anybody at this point following you.
Got it.
Yeah, so they might be laying a little more low or being a little more careful.
I might recommend that we just take maybe a bit of a more odd path, like the way that we walk around. So the rooftops they would have to be going, they'd either have to be taking a more circuitous route, or they'd have to making like more severe jumps from one rooftop to the next in order to continue following us the way that they are. Just so
Okay.
there's more of a chance for us to see them if they are keeping a tail on us, or
for them to fumble and fall.
exactly.
Well, and you're very aware, Jacob, that if there was a person running rooftop to rooftop that is following you right now, they would have had to have gone to all these large palatial mansion-looking houses that are on the west side of Garnsdale Park, and that might get difficult because the roofs aren't quite as close together. But then turning the corner and heading east, then you're actually going right over Lidosk Manor. And so if they didn't want to do that, that means they would have to go a long way around to go to some other place.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
pointing that out and just saying, hey, let's do that.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So as you're proceeding past the Lidosk Manor, again, more large houses, then you can't help but notice it. It would be at the absolute corner where Garnsdale Park is, across the street from it. There is what must have been a grand house, and it looks like it either just rotted and collapsed or it burned down. So you see very much like the fall of the House of Usher, looking walls and windows and nothing in between.
Oh, a lovely omen.
Yeah, and all of it is behind a wall, like an estate wall to their house. As you get closer, you can see that it is gated, and just a little bit closer again, you do note that there is a chain that goes around the gates, and a fairly massive-looking padlock is holding the chain in
Is there any
place.
sort of like a placard on the wall?
Siegecraft on the gate and the wall itself.
Okay, so first thing, there is one, and it simply says Zolatus House.
So this is exactly where we were headed.
That is the spot, yeah. And siegecraft on those.
6 for a 14.
You note that the wall that is this called a curtain wall, this garden wall, it looks as though it's been maintained. Whether that's the city itself periodically repoints the brick, but just look at what's happened to the building that's within it. If the exterior were to go, this wall were to go the same way, it should be in a much greater state of collapse. But it's
I wonder
not.
if it's magic. How tall's the wall?
12 feet. As you're approaching it and you're right up to it, Jacob, go ahead and do your survival.
Oh, okay. Ooh, survival. Okay. I like it. I like
Starting
it
out
a lot.
strong.
Yeah, 27.
That it's quite clear to you that in the weeds and the tall grass that are surrounding the outside of the wall, it looks like there is a path. I mean, it looks like kind of a path that in a city you'd see like dogs running that could form a path like that, or maybe urchins. But you've not seen dogs loose just walking about the city. So something has formed a path that's in this taller grass that goes around the edge of the wall.
Okay, and I kind of point that out as discreetly as possible, just to like, hey, that looks a bit off. That's obviously something of interest. Is there any noticeable way of getting into the gate, or I just see it's on the other side of this gated area?
It actually, no, it doesn't go through the gate. It goes around the wall to the outside and around the corner. So wherever that leads, between that and the house that's adjacent to it.
Oh, yeah. So follow me, and I start walking in that direction.
All right. So does anybody give a last look over their shoulder to see?
Definitely.
I need to.
Especially after we went this way on purpose.
Yep.
Ah,
What
good.
are we rolling?
You're rolling a perception to determine if you're being still being followed or watched by somebody
we're
else.
rolling
Rolling 20-sided
charisma
dice.
checks to try and contain our laughter.
Okay.
was so great.
You just determined with that roll of yours that
Bummer,
you are
success.
very, very cute.
What? Unnatural 20.
13.
23. Unnatural.
All right. So anyone that was
I don't know what I'm wrong, but I'm wrong good.
anyone that's in an 18 recognizes that you saw that you were being followed, that you saw a head, in this case, duck around a building, wasn't up on a rooftop. There's no roofs close by to watch from without being like on one of these palatial mansions. And that could have its own liabilities if you tried that. But further back down the street, right at the corner of an intersection of the street, that a person ducked back out of the way. Anyone rolling above a 22, and I believe I heard that was somebody.
That was
me.
That was you, at 23. Something in what they were doing, their manners and movements, Zelen, you feel really, really certain that they weren't just watching the party. They were watching you.
I'm going to share that with my compatriots.
Okay, so you're right at the point then where you're turning a corner to go in what's tantamount to an alleyway between the wall of this grand house or former grand house and the one that's adjacent to it.
Here's the question. Should I take the person following me someplace else?
No.
Should you
No.
guys go in?
No.
I go
Don't
someplace
split.
else.
Especially if you think that they're following you, because then we know they're going to follow you, and then we're not near you.
Right, but
based-
then they're definitely going to see us go
Then
into
they'll follow
this
us
place.
into the building.
Yeah,
we can
based
wait on
on-
the other side and beat the crap out of them.
True. Based on where we saw them, are we like across the street, so they would have to make like a considerable leap to get to where we are, or come down and walk across?
They're already on the ground. They had
Ah.
to. They couldn't. They can't go rooftop to rooftop.
Yeah, that was the whole point
in
of
this
it's
part of the
risky to
city.
jump on
Yeah.
manors.
I would say we all go in together, and if they follow us in, then we're ready to intercept them.
Okay.
And they're a fair ways down the street, along on one side there's Garnsdale Park, the other side these very, very large houses. So they have a little ways to go to get close
As soon
to
as
you.
we go into that not alarm. I told you guys what I was going to do just now. As soon as we go into that alleyway, would I be concealed enough that I could cast my alarm spell?
Yeah, it looks like the wall that's on the other side, like there's like a bit of an alley right here, is attached to the next residence that's over. And it's a very large estate. So let's have a very, very extensive walking garden inside that wall. And it looks like maybe there owns ground people walk through here periodically, but it looks like it's generally not used. Like beyond this, there's not a lot to get to. You're almost getting to the outer curtain of the city and outside.
Then I do cast it in such a way that it's not going to get anyone walking by on the street. It's just going to be the tail end is at that alleyway entrance, and then into the area is more of a...
Yeah, and this alley, it's choked with grass, but you can see where this trail goes through it.
Mm-hmm.
And the grass is tall enough and long enough that it isn't like you see a trail that's beaten and the grass is folding like apart away from this trail. It's laying back into it too. But you are very aware of it, that it's still a trail that's there.
Yeah, so...
It's only about 8 feet wide, this alleyway between these two walls.
Okay.
The wall to the other side is not as tall. It's only about 8 feet tall. So, it's uneven, like uneven bookends as you go through this alleyway. All right,
Okay.
so you head down through that, you're following it, and when you get just about 40 feet down the length of this wall, Jacob, you see ahead of you the trail stops right against the wall, and it's in very, very thick grass.
Okay. Moving up close to it, does it seem like it comes to like if I were to touch this wall, my hand would just move through it, like it was like it's an illusion, or like other footsteps, or anything that would give me
Or a hole in the wall.
or a hole? Yeah.
As you get right up to it, you realize that there's actually a hole in the ground.
Ooh.
Oh,
So
Okay.
it looks like just big enough for a person, probably unarmored, to sit down into, either crawling head first or maybe trying to work down into, but just not much bigger than a person's shoulders, like a little tube. And it goes down in the ground, and the grass just lays against the wall. That maybe somebody's found this. Maybe, urchins would get down into this place. But you can't imagine going into this willingly.
How perfect that we came unarmored. I pointed out to them, and I'll let them. I think we're all going to be moving in this direction, so I'll let them go
Yeah.
first, and I'll go last, so that way I can kind of move the grass back in to conceal it as best I can.
I'll go through head first, facing up, not down, so I can see anything on the other side immediately.
Okay, so it goes straight down for about 4 or 5 feet. At the bottom of it, it curves slightly to go underground, and like under the wall, and then it's descending at about a 30-degree angle. So it feels kind of steep in here, very claustrophobic,
Very dark.
and it is very dark.
Do you want a torch or something?
Because not a torch, that wouldn't be great.
Yeah, flame go up.
Lights
Yeah,
all the grass.
I hate to waste it, but I activate Sacred Weapon. Not for the +4 bonus to attack rolls with my dagger, because whatever,
Yeah.
but gaining 20 feet of bright light and 20 feet of dim light, so I can actually see as I'm moving through.
If I'm close enough to you, I could produce flame, and we could use that as a light.
Well, still,
we're
same thing with the
crawling through a
torch.
hole.
Yeah, I know, but
just-
it would give you a little bit of light.
I can't hold it, and I
You
need to
wouldn't
go
be
first.
the light wouldn't be
No,
able to
I'm
make it
saying
past
if
him.
I'm close enough to you, I could be right behind you with it.
Because of how narrow the hole is, the light wouldn't be able to make it around him because he's
Mm.
going first. He would need
Whichever
the
you
light
guys want
source.
to do, it would be like if you've seen those things on documentaries and whatever, the Discovery Channel.
Spelunking.
That or like they put a camera down somebody's esophagus. It feels very tube-like and down.
Yay!
Oh, I don't appreciate the use of esophagus.
Yeah, bleep that one out.
So You head down through this thing, and it feels like it's a lot longer than what it actually is because it is so confining. It is so slow, so claustrophobic, and the air is just getting more and more stagnant as you go down. There's not any circulation. It's not going to open up into a nice space that has, like fresh air coming
Just
through.
the other side of
And
the
our
wall.
sense is this isn't. We're not getting into the house. We're going down.
It's like you're
we're
under
getting under the house.
Yeah, to get into the house, it is truly a ruin. That from what you could tell from the front gate, it is a number of the walls that are still there, and you can see up high, like on the second and third story, where the windows would be, but there's no floor. It's just a hollowed shell, and in some cases, even the shell had collapsed. So it is truly, truly a ruin.
Got it.
And it looks like there might have been fire, but it's difficult to say. Just discolorations in oak beams, at least leaches that tannic acid, and it looks the same way. But this would be underneath that estate. So, Jacob, go ahead and do that as a survival skill to try to determine how far you've gone underground as you've gone this angle.
16.
That you feel fairly confident that when it comes to a linear distance, you've probably gone about 30 feet, although it feels a lot longer than that because you're also going down at an angle to get into it. And depth-wise, you would figure that maybe it's been about the same. You've gone somewhere around 30 feet underground.
Wow.
So it's gone down fairly considerably. Now, that would be a lot for all of you, especially if you came from Gryan. Boris, when you think about the foundations of larger houses in cities you've been in before, you go, yeah, okay, because those foundations go down really,
That
really
tracks.
deep
Right,
under large houses that way.
Did you want any sort of a roll for disguising the grass back up at the top, or I'm just so adept?
If you want to try that, go ahead.
Yeah. Ooh, natural 16 for a 23.
Yeah, so if you're the last person going through and you're
Yeah.
kind of pulling the grass back over, you think that it is no more obvious than what it was before.
Okay, cool.
And then Boris out in the lead, as your illumination is going out ahead of you, you can see that the tunnel hits a bottom and you are coming in not like up a wall or into a ceiling or something, but at the base of a wall that you're coming at floor level. And it opens up into a larger space ahead of you.
Natural space or...
You are noting already at the very bottom of this area that it looks like it's been dug out by mattocks, and you're seeing the edge of a beam that looks like it was put in place, a wooden beam, to support the
Wine
whatever
cellar, question
place
mark?
this is.
it'd be brick if it was a wine cellar. I'm going to take a bonus action and cast Shield of Faith on myself, so
All
my
right.
armor class isn't quite so bad.
I don't have any spells that make me any better.
Um,
I could summon a
Yeah, right now
turtle.
Zelen is very appreciative. She cast mage armor on herself, right?
I could summon some sort of an animal. Yeah.
And you get down to the bottom of it, Victor. I
Spooky.
think you said Victor, Boris, and you said that you were head first going in.
Yeah, so I could look
it's
up
been
as I'm
an-
coming out.
Yeah, it's been an awkward climb the whole way down.
harrowing, dare I
Yeah,
say.
so as you stand up, you don't note it in yourself, but you are quite dirty coming into this thing. So
Yeah.
as
That-
you
that
stand
was
up,
inevitable.
you are in a large area. It looks more like a mine. There are beams all over the place, but it looks like they've whoever did this construction underneath here made will be a framework of beams, like squares and squares and squares of beams, because most of the material, the natural material around it, is earth and rock, and there are places even within the range of your own light, which would be near you to either wall, that's been dug out. That's like somebody's had shovels and mattocks and has been digging this area out.
How high an area?
It looks like the ceiling goes typically to about like 8 feet where you are, but further out into the middle of this area, which is big, that it could go as high as twice that, 16 feet maybe.
What is this?
What does the floor look like?
There is, where you're standing right now, it's just dirt. But you're seeing that it's a very packed dirt, that it looks like that feet, boots have been walking on this for long periods of time. So it has the image of a hard clay, that it couldn't be any more compact than what it is. So like a solid dirt floor.
Any indication as far as how recently something may have traveled down here?
Go ahead and roll your survival to determine it.
19.
It looks as though nothing has traveled here very recently. There's enough just settling in the dirt and the way that like moisture on dirt starts to peak the dirt, in a subtle way. It makes the dirt look fuzzy underground, that you're getting some note of that in different spots where it's not packed so completely. But in the area where it's packed, you notice that it almost forms what's like a trail going through the middle of this.
Okay, so I can see like pathways that are most commonly traveled.
Yeah, you can see one that goes almost directly across into the darkness.
We should set up other light sources before we go any further.
Yeah, I'll produce flame.
And two that go to the right. As you look around you, you note that there are lanterns to either side of this area that a person coming down could simply, if they, with your production of flame, you could light the wicks in these lanterns.
Is there oil in them?
Yeah, you give it a rattle, and there's oil in it.
Huh.
Do you want me to light the lanterns?
Yeah, that'd be great.
So I'll light the lanterns, but then I'm going to listen at the tunnel because I want to know if somebody is following us, if the person who's following us entered the tunnel.
Okay, give a perception.
And nothing's happened with my alarm,
I'll do
right?
the same.
Nothing's happened with your what?
My alarm.
Yeah, your alarm has not been triggered.
13.
7.
You don't hear anything, either of you, from back behind you.
And your alarm didn't get triggered.
No, and I'm reasonably confident that I hit the way that we came in just as well as it was when we found it.
Yeah, you would think that anybody that coming through there, they're going to see the exact same thing that you guys saw.
Mm-hmm.
So unless they're looking for it.
How much longer do I have with Sacred Weapon?
What's the total duration? A minute. Oh, it's probably run out. Okay. Yeah, it probably took you like 4 or 5 minutes just to clamber down through there, really. I wasn't thinking about it. Yeah, sorry about that.
So do we hear anything else? Like, do we hear any sounds in this space that we're
The faint
in?
noise of rocks.
Or dripping water, or
no, there's no
heavy
sound,
breathing?
There's no sound of dripping water. No, it is quite quiet. It's just your own
breathing.
sound. That'd be bad.
Yeah.
Lurch.
I bring your attention back to esophagus.
Can we see the ceiling? Can we see high enough to see up on the ceiling?
Yeah, well, you're in a structure like a grid of beams, rectangular beams, and they're about like in like 8-foot squares, and so you can see that where you are right now, they built this structure to where it's like beams 8 feet tall, with an 8 feet like lintel to the next batch of them, and that's a mining technique that will be used for any soft kind of mining. That no matter where the collapse is, you're under this structure that'll support it. So it looks like it's taller, like there's more. You see bases of beams on top of others right at the edge of your lantern light, good 20 feet or so away. But the whole room, like from one side to the other, it's outside the range of your lantern right now. But where you are, the ceiling doesn't really go above the 8 foot of those beams. It's about 8 feet tall right here.
So it clearly doesn't look like it was part of the structure that was above it.
Not at all.
It looks like somebody has been coming down here and digging.
And you can see quite plainly, you don't need any kind of a perception roll, that there are, that sculpted look of a shovel or a mattock, hitting a piece of dirt, taking it out. You see where the metal, took out a piece of that. That's quite apparent in the walls.
And
Where'd
is there
the dirt
piles
go?
of detritus? Yeah, exactly. Like, are they, does it look like they're panning for something? That there's piles of what they don't want?
Right up against the wall, there is loose dirt, but if somebody actually excavated this entire area, there isn't a big mound in the middle. They're making it go away somehow, but it's not clear how they're doing that.
Is there a series of lanterns along the outside to ignite or light up the whole area, or is it like we can just take it off the wall and walk around?
You
with
could
the
say take off the whatever peg is on that beam to lift it off, but you don't see within the range of the light that there's other lanterns nearby.
Okay. Well, I think
Let's
we want
stick to the right-hand wall and start circling around to see if we can find anything.
Okay, so within just 10 feet, you see there's a tunnelway that's going, well, for the sake of my own map and not getting confused with actual north, it's like the top of map is north. Going north on my map, there is a very narrow, like 2.5 foot wide tunnel that's only about 6 feet tall that has been dug, and it goes further north.
Any sounds coming from it? Quick perception.
Quick perception.
That would be
8.
Yeah,
also
so
an 8.
You don't hear anything.
4.
But from your
5.
previous roll, Jacob, you do note that the ground you're on, you take one step and you can feel it. This is not the hard packed dirt.
Okay.
This is the dirt that's been less traveled, and so you look down, and as you lift your foot up, you recognize you left a boot print.
Aha.
Yeah, so.
Nothing else that I see like footprint wise down there that would give me an idea about
Well, you're
what
just
went there?
stepping toward it. So have you gone up into that space itself?
Well, knowing now that the ground is softer, like taking the lantern light and looking down at it to see further on ahead of me, are there footsteps or any other indication of what travels that way?
It looks like there has been, but maybe it's been months since somebody has walked into this space.
Okay, and I share that.
And do you proceed further in?
Yeah,
I
I'll
think
take
so.
point.
Yeah.
Okay, so you get to the edge of it, and it's really about maybe it's a slightly circular room, about 30 feet in diameter, and it is definitely carved out. It looks like someone was excavating this area. There is a single like about 8 foot by 8 foot by 8 foot structure in this, so in case it collapsed. There's no dirt mound in the middle, but there's all kinds of debris. Like somebody was throwing like bits of old, you're not sure, cloth, wood, some stone. Like this was something like a trash pit in this area.
Interesting. And it doesn't go any deeper. It's just there's a mound, right?
Yeah, there's like mound is probably too generous a word, but yeah, like trash has been pitched into here.
Interesting.
So do you push forward into it to better examine, or look at what kind of stuff's been thrown at you?
We've come this
As
far.
gross as it is, I am actually immune to disease because I'm a paladin. So
Okay.
yes,
Okay, so you realize it's not garbage. There's nothing that's rotting in here. It's all dried. And as you look at it, you note a bone, then another bone, and more bones, and a skull. And it looks like somebody had either dug up a person who was buried here and just kind of thrashed through their burial site, or threw bones into here.
I toss one to Jacob. See if there are bite marks.
Thanks. Thank you so much. And I do inspect it. 11.
There are no bite marks.
Gotcha. Does it seem like the bones have been stripped clean, or are they still kind of like
Meaty?
meat? Yeah.
Well,
For
they're
lack of a better
rotting or
term.
dry.
There would be a little bit of tendon, like a slight bit of that, but it looks like these things were interred long enough ago that they are 99.9% clear of all.
So it
all
does look
tissue.
like natural decay, not like anything was eaten off of it.
Right.
Or
Okay.
scraped
Is
off with a
there-
knife or whatever.
Is there any moss or anything on any of the walls?
In this area, there is not.
Lichen or fungus down
that
here.
There, you did notice that when you're coming down the tunnelway or tubeway, you would have seen that there was some lichens that were on the tube going down on the ceiling of that tube.
I could cast speak with plants and try to talk with the plants and find out what they see down here. If they are people sacrificing people down here, are they?
Now that we're down here, I'm not sure I want to take the time and split the party at all to go back up part way.
We haven't passed any greenery since we've gotten down here.
We're underground.
In this area, yeah,
That's a good
that
point.
it would look as though that nothing's had time to grow. That the walls have been dug out, so it was just plain old underground.
I mean, that gives us a little bit of information. If nothing's had time to grow, then that means this is actually somewhat reasonably recent.
Reasonably. Now there could be tree roots that pop through here and there, but you haven't examined or made note of that yet.
Yeah. So I'm going to be looking for that. My ranger friend, if you could also be looking for that, because maybe if we could find a plant, I could get some more information.
That
about
looks
what's
like a
going on
stick.
down
It's not
here.
a root. I can't look for these things.
Yeah, but
I will also the perception.
Speaking of sticks, yeah, the some of the stuff that's in here, there is what's almost
Yeah,
seems
there's a
like
stick to something.
dried, like not hay, but as you're looking at, you'll see it's brittle wood. It's been dry rotted wood that might have at one time been even boards or a
Like a
post
coffin?
of some kind, potentially, yeah, like a wooden coffin that is so dry rotted up that there's no actual structure, but it would be like somebody stood in that narrow little tunnelway and just pitched it into this area.
Well, I don't
Okay.
think I'm finding anything useful, so
Yeah, I'd rather go around the whole
Yeah,
this whole room and
sticking-
not go down that tunnelway yet.
Yeah.
what?
So instead of like not going any further into this room, coming back out and then continuing along to the right.
All right, sure. So you could have waded through like the trash that's in there, but I think Boris was in the room.
Yes, yeah,
but
I was actually
he
looking
was
through
looking
the
at the stuff. So as you come back out and stick to the right hand wall coming around, you do get to a second tunnelway that is again maybe a little wider, closer to 5 feet wide, and it looks like it's been traversed more. That it doesn't have that same kind of ground that looks like it's been like less packed, or the dirt seems kind of peaked by just the natural moisture.
Okay.
But it's also going in a general northerly direction.
Okay. And as we follow that one, just walking along.
Yeah, it is only about 20 feet long, and it goes at a slight angle. It stays fairly level, and then it just stops at a stone wall.
Like they were digging through dirt and they got to stone and now they can't dig any further? or-
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can even see where there are some marks on the stone itself where, as they were clearing off the dirt and some of the dirt and rock in front of it, that their mattock or shovel, scarred what was the wall in front of them.
Is it just like I think their tools couldn't have made it through this stone, or that they just kind of weren't looking for this and they just were going to change directions or just gave
Go ahead
up
and
on this
roll
tunnel.
that as a do it as an investigation.
Ah, yes, investigation. One of my great skills. 5.
Yeah, you have no idea.
Okay.
They could have been bashing at it with hammers, and you couldn't tell the difference apparently.
Okay.
I've I've had an oogie feeling down here. Now having seen bones, even more so.
It does feel odd though.
You didn't see bite marks on, but I will take a use of divine sense. So I know if there are fiends, celestials, or undead within 60 feet of me. I'll retain, or as well as consecrated or desecrated locations within that range. And I will retain that awareness until the end of my next turn.
Okay.
So
So do I?
Hang on, I was changing my piece of paper. That there are
Notes.
there are neither fiends nor celestials nor undead within 60 feet of you in this spot. You do recognize that there was consecrated ground within that range, and where it's not been officially desecrated, it feels a little less pure.
It hasn't been maintained.
That's a good way to look at it. Yes.
Okay.
I think it's a bit
Interesting.
odd that this is one of the most traveled areas. But
You
it
wanna
just
look for
leads
secret
to this-
doors?
I do want to look for
Yeah,
secret doors.
Can I examine the stone wall and see if I can, how is it constructed? Is it thrown together? Is it really well built?
Is it solid stone?
Does it have any of the stones that we recognize, like any of the river jasper or
Local
quartz,
stones?
or is it any of the stones have strings around their necks? What's happening with the stones?
It looks like it's granite. It looks those made from pieces of granite. The mortar on it is very very deep
Glad I didn't ask for
grouting.
that 'cause it was low.
So if this were an exterior building, some of you might think you could even get your fingers between stones and climb it. The mortar is so deep set into between the stones themselves.
That's
So it looks a little bit like, with the way the light, as the lanterns move, that each brick looks like it's floating about 3/8 of an inch from the next one, because you can't really see the mortar that's in between them. It's deep enough into the wall. But it is definitely a granite, and considering Brimroar Hills, it could be very much locally quarried stone.
I don't know if you're joking, but
I'm going
with
to
all the secret
cast
doors.
find traps
Ooh.
on this.
Okay, go ahead.
With all the secret doors that we've come into contact with, I do definitely want to
well, and
look
it's a tunnel
specific.
just terminating in a wall.
And a well-traversed one at that.
Yeah, it's either like Cask of Amontillado and they couldn't dig through the dirt, or it's a secret door.
Is that an automatic thing, Zelen, or is it any kind of a save? I forget.
That is it's an action, instantaneous. You sense the presence of any traps within range that is within line of sight.
There are no traps within line of sight or within range.
Okay.
Did you bring your hammer?
No,
Oh,
because I'm not armed.
that's a good point.
I've just got a dagger.
Okay, I start to investigate, looking if there's any latch or anything that releases a secret door.
Okay, do
And-
that as an investigate then.
Much better than the last one. 23.
You do.
Nice.
As you are working your fingers around this, what would be, and you found it so typical, and it's something to think about if you ever make a secret door for yourself, that the catch and the mechanism for secret doors are so often at a doorknob height. It's somewhere right around there where a person would naturally reach to. So as your fingers are running between those recessed areas between the stone, you find it feels like it's a stone trigger. Could be metal, you can't see it, but you know that if you put pressure on that, you think it's going to open something.
Ooh, good call, Boris.
You open, I'll breach.
Yeah, we already know there's no trap, so I unlatch it and
Well,
open the door.
Yeah,
there might
so
be on the other side.
you unlatch that and just a little bit of a push, and you can open it,
And
open it and go into the space that's
I
adjacent.
move in, lantern in one hand, knife in the other.
You are looking at a room that you think and would believe right away is probably a tomb, because the only piece of furniture that's still in here
I
is
hate
on the
being
far
right.
wall. The space itself is about 20 feet by 40 feet. You're at the bottom, narrow end of the room, and at the opposite end there is an outer stone sarcophagi. And I use the Egyptian term. It's a big stone box made into the floor, but it looks like it was used to be a sarcophagus,
Open or closed?
open. And
Oh.
Dang it.
and
Boy.
the lid to it is just off to one side adjacent.
Is it within 60 feet of the door?
It is within 60 feet of the door. Yeah.
There's no undead in
So
here.
there's no one dead in there.
Okay, is the lid broken, or is it just like pushed off to the side?
It's both. It's been pushed off, and either when it hit or somebody after it broke it. It's in a number of large pieces and some smaller pieces. Too.
Any indication if it like exploded off of the thing and broke against the ceiling, or if it just like it slid off and broke against the ground? Like there was no.
Do an examination of the ceiling. So, and as you're looking at that and looking around,
I'll approach it and take a better look at both it and its contents.
Jacob,
17.
you notice that the dirt on the walls isn't dirt on the walls, and you recognize it as you're looking at the ceiling. It's painted. It's painted as though you are in a garden that has a low wall, and you're looking at the sky above you, that the slightly brighter color of the ceiling is like a pale blue, but it's dirty, and some of the paint's flecked off. And then beyond, from the perception of looking at this, beyond the stone wall that's painted like at about a knee wall height, you can see that there is a horizon. There are mountains and foothills and trees in the distance, as though you're outside in a garden right here.
Hey,
Do we
Zelen,
recognize
I found
this-
your plants.
Do we do we recognize the scene?
Roll a perception.
Yeah. Ooh. Damn it. 22.
14.
24.
Yes, you all recognize this place as being an area of the Brimroar Hills that wouldn't be that far from Sarn-Tar Azul.
Oh.
All the foothills line up and look right. It's as though you're in a garden, in a house, in Sarn-Tar Azul.
Okay,
looking
I
at
feel
the surrounding
supremely
Brimroar Hills.
justified giving every time we get anywhere near anything from that era, there's undead around. So, called it.
Is
Dang
there
it.
is there anything else in the room? Like, was this designed for someone to sit with whoever was in the sarcophagi and feel peaceful? Like, there's nothing else in this room. Can I tell if there was anything else in the room?
The room is so spacious that there wouldn't be any marks on the floor that would stand out that way. But you can imagine, it's so large, there must have been a lot of things in here. You would suspect that this place has been plundered, that there used to be a lot of stuff in here.
And the floor,
So
same
plundered
dirt?
and then walled up.
Oh.
Or plundered and then closed again, then buried.
Yeah, the floor in here, is it a better, or is it still the same dirt floor?
No, it's not dirt. It is a granite floor.
Okay.
It looks like it would be, well, you were in different houses in Sarn-Tar Azul. It looks like a Sarn-Tar Azul structure.
Of course
floor.
it does. We found a convenient placard on the front entrance of the building. Is there any sort of a headstone or anything to let us know who was buried here?
There isn't. It could be that it's in some other area that's still covered by dirt outside
Did we
this.
look in the thing?
Is the I said I walked near it.
Yeah,
Okay.
Is the lid smooth, or is it like that pictorial edifice of who would have been interred?
There is no pictorial edifice, but the stone itself looks as...
there's a bust next to all of them. Remember in the tombs?
Right.
Yeah,
yeah.
the tombs.
So, right.
That probably got plundered.
That there is a niche in the side of it, and that there is a vacancy. There's no bust that's in there right now. But the stone itself looked as though
Sir Michael, do you know who this is?
someone
Right.
that somebody could actually make the stone liquid and then reshape it. It almost looks like the granite itself has been like shaped in a potter's wheel, but it's not circular. It's a bad analogy. But it's as though somebody could round off the edges, smooth it a certain way,
Shaped the stone.
shape the stone
Thanks.
in essence.
Yeah, stone shaped spell. Or at least as far as I, Victor, knows, not necessarily I, Boris.
So I'm going to walk up by Boris to also examine the sarcophagus,
Yeah.
and he's on the lid. I'll look into the actual Gus.
Again, it looks as though whatever kind of like a wooden sarcophagus would have been inside here, it's been lifted out. The body's gone. It is empty. It is a stone box. But again, a lot of detail went into the making of this thing. It's a single piece of stone, and it looks as though it's a single piece of stone that wasn't just set on the floor. It looks like it's made into the floor. It's all part of the same stone.
Do we have the feeling that the guy that we found in the room next door was buried in this hole not too long ago?
It's a possibility. Yeah.
Interesting.
Weird.
I hate this. Why do I do this? I don't even get paid.
Technically, you did. You've got
Hey.
title and wealth now.
This is okay.
And that's
Oh,
all.
and magic stuff.
That's
Okay,
all we
fine.
see, right? There's nothing. Does anything look damaged? Does anything look
Everything looks a little damaged.
I mean, like just
Age damaged or deliberately damaged?
right. Yeah.
Aged. Yeah,
Okay.
age damage, yeah.
So
I wonder if we should put the guy back in the box.
I don't want to handle any bodies for fear they wake up.
you
So-
threw bones at me, sir.
Just a bone.
Not bodies.
Yeah, I am all on board with getting out of this room, not necessarily putting the guy back in.
Oh, and
his-
that was to see if they got eaten by an animate undead.
So
Okay.
you would think, Jacob, if you're looking around, and make a note on your character sheet, the role you made when you're first like doing a perception, do I recognize this place? Because you believe that if you were back, if you really thought about it, because you're trying to remember the hillsides around Sanctar Azul, you might actually be able to even find the exact spot this is depicting to line up the hills in your head. So just keep that number in your head when it comes back to being perhaps someday in Sanctar Azul.
I wonder if this is foreshadowing.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
hint, hint, nudge, nudge, wink.
I just know that my brain thinks that way.
Mm.
I have that right next to where I have. Apparently, I forgot that I have a claw of a dragon. So,
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
yeah.
I had two. They're part of my cloak now.
Oh yeah, and I also have some poison arrows being made for me.
Yeah.
I have a lot of notes
That-
on
that
here
was-
that I
that
really
was-
should read more often.
That was just like, yesterday.
Dang it!
In game.
Well, no, that was like a couple weeks ago.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, no, yeah, because that didn't happen here. That happened in. I haven't
right,
found the
That's right. I forgot. Yeah.
alchemical guy here.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm glad I read your character sheet.
You're welcome.
All right. So do you leave this room?
Yeah,
Yes.
Anything else to determine in here?
No.
Okay.
Nothing I can think of.
Continuing to follow the right hand wall.
Are there any plants in here?
Oh yeah, looking
Um,
for tree roots.
there
Just
are-
I
painted
mean,
ones.
real plants, not painted
Yeah,
ones.
there are no real plants, and there are no roots coming through the walls, the
Okay.
stone
Okay.
walls in here. But you do note that when you're on the inside of this, that the inside of the secret door looks like a gate. Like it's painted to look like a gate.
This is so sweet. Somebody really spent a lot of time on making
Yeah, it was
this
very,
nice.
very carefully prepared.
I'm really wondering how this came into being though, because if they had to dig that tunnel up to this door, they had to have known where the door was going to be.
I think it's because this used to be out in the air. This was like a mausoleum, would be my guess. Only
Oh, and then it got
way
buried?
long ago. Yeah.
And then
Landslided down the
sometimes
face of the mountain.
centuries later, they built a house on top of
Right,
the whole area.
exactly.
Or it just appeared here because it teleported from Sanctar Azul.
I hope Garden Dude haunted them for building on top of them. 'cause-
So you go back down
Looks
that
like he
20
burnt down the
foot
house.
that 20-foot tunnel,
Yeah, that
and you're back
passage.
in that main gallery room.
yeah, but you know
Not
what this
gallery,
is
but
striking
its
me?
main excavator
chamber.
Somebody's looking for something down here. That they're digging around, they're digging through, they got into this space, they trashed this space, disturbed the coffin, threw all the stuff out of it. They're looking for something.
And I don't see any sign that they have been here in months, so maybe they found it.
I wonder if they if the bust is gone because they broke it, thinking that whatever they were looking for was inside the bust or something.
There's no
Did
chance
any
that
of
this
those
is Schepanov's
pieces
mission, right?
when you were digging around when you were digging around in the trash, did any of it look like pottery or any of that kind of stuff?
Certainly, yeah.
So this is interesting. So yeah, I think somebody's looking for something. I wonder.
Do we have any sort of a litmus test that we set in place to know when we find Schepanov's mission?
We'll recognize it. It has a trunk in it.
You would imagine that with what you already know about
It
and
should
your
be larger than...
attunement
and
to,
consecrated.
that you would, there'd be other tells.
This
I mean, the
place
last
used
thing we
to
found
be.
was on a throne.
This is-
So I
this is
think
true.
there probably
So
will be a clue.
Proceeding along that wall,
Yeah, continue over
just
the right
continue
wall.
around, right. So you travel about another 15 feet or so along that wall, and then there is another like cut passage, and you realize as you're approaching where that cut passage is, not directly opposite where you first came down into this excavated area, but pretty close to, like directly across, that the whole thing is probably about like 35 feet across to get from one side to the other, and it seems to be longer, north to south than that. But there's a really short, like 10-foot hallway that breaks off to your right-hand side. And you can see just beyond it that there's another spot where like a tunnel was started. And then just at the edge of your light, another tunnel was started, as though people are just digging, fanning out in any direction, and keep just excavating and removing more and more
They're
dirt.
looking for something.
Yeah,
They're
which
looking
is
for something down here.
disturbing.
So, but at the one you're at
yeah.
right now, it just takes a glance, and it's well within your range of the lantern light, that you can see that this first 10-foot long tunnel terminates in a stone wall, just like the one prior.
Alright.
Okay. With the same kind of knowledge, like looking for the exact same sort of a mechanism. If I walk over there, do I find it just like the last one, or?
Yeah, with the roll you made before,
You
we'll just
open,
keep
I
that
breach.
roll that you recognize that. Yeah, guys, this is a secret door right here.
Okay. So these buildings are buildings. These rooms, I guess, are connected.
Well, they're connected by these tunnels.
Oh
But-
yeah, I mean like as far as like, even though we found both of these things underground, it's almost like these were both built at the same time, like the mausoleum that we just went into.
That'd be difficult to say. It could have
Okay.
been that other one was built.
I was judging just by the
years
door
before,
mechanism.
100 years later.
Mm.
Very similar. Of course, the pattern in the stone is different, but it looks like whatever mechanism is similar. So yeah, that could put them at pretty close to the same time.
Okay.
Now, what you're also very aware of, the other tunnel bent slightly to one side, like it curved a little bit to get to that door. So they started to dig and then realigned where to get to the door. And this one is just a straight shot. It goes like just due west in the map, from the center of that room
So
to the left. They pinpointed it. You find the secret door. They pinpointed that secret door and got right to it, where they could have dug in the wall. You'd almost expect that they hit a wall and then started going laterally along the wall, digging and excavating until they found an opening. This one, when they got to it, they dug right to it.
So you all, what with better magics than me, do you know of anything that would allow you to locate something through large amounts of dirt?
I've heard of powerful divinations that would let you see a place from far away. But
We used one, yeah.
yeah, truly.
All right, so you're at that.
So
Do you guys
possibly.
keep going around to the right-hand side and going around the
No,
room, or do you want to go to that secret door?
I want to go to the secret door.
Yeah, let's breach that secret door.
Okay, so as you get to the end of that, Jacob, you've already found where the latch is. You guys ready to go in? You trigger it and go in. You open up into this room, and it is all stone. It is very well put together, how the stone on the floor right in front of you is set up and designed. It looks like there's a pattern in the floor that might take a little more observation to figure, but you can also tell that this room has also been painted on the inside. There is no excavation here. Nothing's been dug out of this space, but as you step into it, it is huge. This whole area is like 60 feet long from the door you're entering to the far side. You actually see a reflection off your light from something on the wall, and maybe 45 feet wide. It is a huge gallery room, a massive
Jacob,
room.
do you see any tracks?
Yeah, I'll take a look.
The area that you crossed back into it, there is what's tantamount to a path of packed dirt that goes from the tube you came down back in the dug room to this spot. And you were on the less compact dirt coming around the circumference of that dug area and then back onto this packed dirt. But when you step into this room, it is stone. It is very solid stone.
And it's clean stone, so it's not filtered dirt stone. I mean, like he can't check for traps because it's that clean.
Well,
not traps, tracks.
Yes, that's exactly right. That people passing, there might be some dirt in here, but it looks like if people were digging somewhere else, they swept the dirt back into the area you're just coming out of. But so any of the dirt that's in here would be more like what's peeled from the walls, paint that's disintegrated, fine layer of dust. But no, this is.
Does it seem intentional like that? Like they were covering their tracks or respecting the area that they've just
Yeah, a little bit of
uncovered?
both potentially. Yeah, a little bit of both maybe.
Interesting.
Ominous.
So just
What else-
inside the door.
What else can we kind of gather?
Well, there are more lanterns that are on the inside of the walls right here. So it seems to be expected that people, come into this place and do light lanterns. So you could have more illumination if you lit more of these lanterns.
Yeah, let's not for a minute.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Let's see. Because if that's what's expected,
It
let's
may
explore in a slightly
Induce something.
right. Let's explore in a slightly different way. And
So roll
see.
perceptions.
14.
18.
7.
All right. So with the 14 and the 18, as you turn to and notice that there are lanterns hanging on, not just pegs on a beam, but there is an actual hook made out of stone to hang a lantern on either side of the door. You're looking at it and you're too close to it to see what the pattern is, but you can tell there's painting on this wall and there's something familiar about it, but you need to step further to the middle of the room to figure out what that actually is, what the painting is of.
Yeah, I guess. I'll take point with that just in case anything comes rushing at us when we get in the middle?
So as you go walking toward the middle, and I guess looking back, I guess you're not walking backwards looking at the wall,
No.
but as you're looking at the wall to see what that is, it comes into clear focus that whole, call it the eastern wall of this area, is painted to look as though you're looking at Sarntar Azul from a great distance. Remember how big Sarntar Azul was?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
as though you're on like a hilltop somewhere and you're looking and it's like 5 or 8 miles away, 10 miles away. You can see the entire gleaming city of Sarntar Azul. It's just that it's very
Wow.
dull and dimmed because the paint's, chipped and
Is it in its heyday?
must be. Yeah, that it looks like the whole magnificent city.
Judging
And it takes
by-
the entire wall, and that's about a 45-foot long
Judging
wall.
by spatial, what's painted on? Is there anything painted on the opposite wall?
So as you turn around and are looking, there's a low dais on that wall, slightly curved, that would have a throne. You could imagine some kind of a throne should be on it, but there's no furniture whatsoever. But that entire wall is painted as though off in the distance behind that dais is the Gate of the Ages.
Thank you for listening. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at The Empire's Edge. If you're wondering how we picture our characters, check out mattsinkovich.com and theempiresedge.com to find sketches. Support the podcast on subscribestar.com/the-empires-edge.